In the heart of rural Missouri, amidst the sprawling landscapes and gentle hills, lies Maplewood Farm, a picturesque homestead that has stood for generations. Owned by the Carter family for over a century, the farm has weathered the tests of time, its fields yielding bountiful harvests and its barns sheltering generations of livestock. Thomas Carter, the current steward of Maplewood Farm, inherits not only the land but also the rich tapestry of stories and legends that cling to its soil like the morning dew. He is a man of weathered hands and calloused palms, his face etched with lines of toil and wisdom earned from years of working the land. As the story unfolds, Thomas's connection to the farm is explored in greater detail. He recounts fond memories of his childhood spent amidst the golden fields of wheat and the verdant pastures where he learned the ways of the land from his father, John Carter, and his grandfather, Samuel Carter. Thomas remembers the endless summer days spent riding horses across the fields, the laughter of his siblings echoing through the barns, and the warmth of his mother's cooking filling the farmhouse kitchen. Maplewood Farm was more than just a place. It was his home, his sanctuary, his refuge from the chaos of the outside world. But beneath the idyllic facade of Maplewood Farm lies a darkness that Thomas cannot ignore. Strange occurrences, whispered tales, and unexplained phenomena have plagued the farm for as long as he can remember. From inexplicable crop failures to sightings of shadowy figures lurking in the fields, the farm has become a breeding ground for superstition and fear. As Thomas grows older, he becomes increasingly aware of the weight of responsibility that comes with being the heir to Maplewood Farm. He spends long hours working the land, tending to the crops, and caring for the livestock, determined to honor the legacy of his family and preserve the farm for future generations. But despite his efforts, Thomas cannot shake the feeling that something is not quite right at Maplewood Farm. He hears whispers among the farm hands, rumors of strange happenings and unexplained disappearances that go unspoken in polite company. He notices peculiarities in the behavior of the animals, a restlessness and unease that seems to permeate the very air. One evening, as Thomas sits alone in the farmhouse kitchen, he hears a faint scratching at the door. Curious, he rises from his chair and crosses the room, pulling open the heavy wooden door to reveal a sight that fills him with dread. Standing on the doorstep is an old man, his face weathered and worn, his eyes dark and haunted. He introduces himself as Old Jacob, a local farmer who claims to have worked the land long before the Carters ever set foot on Maplewood Farm. Old Jacob speaks of dark secrets hidden beneath the soil, of ancient curses and vengeful spirits that have plagued the farm for generations. He warns Thomas of the dangers that lurk in the shadows, urging him to heed the signs and protect himself from the malevolent forces that seek to destroy him. At first, Thomas dismisses Old Jacob's words as the ramblings of a senile old man. But as the days pass and strange occurrences continue to plague Maplewood Farm, he begins to wonder if there might be some truth to the old farmer's warnings. Determined to uncover the truth, Thomas delves deeper into the history of Maplewood Farm, scouring old family records and local archives for clues to the farm's dark past. What he discovers sends shivers down his spine, confirming his worst fears and revealing a legacy of darkness that stretches back centuries. As the sun sets on another day at Maplewood Farm, Thomas knows that he cannot turn a blind eye to the horrors that lurk within its hallowed grounds. Armed with newfound knowledge and steely resolve, he prepares to confront the darkness that threatens to consume him and his family. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the fields of Maplewood Farm as Thomas retreated to the solitude of the farmhouse. The events of the day weighed heavily on his mind, the words of Old Jacob echoing in his ears like a ghostly refrain. As Thomas settled into his chair by the fireplace, he couldn't shake the feeling of unease that lingered in the air. The farmhouse seemed to creak and groan with a life of its own, its timbers whispering secrets long forgotten by mortal ears. Determined to uncover the truth behind the strange occurrences at Maplewood Farm, Thomas delved into his research with renewed vigor. He pored over old family journals, dusty tomes of local history, and faded newspaper clippings, searching for any clue that might shed light on the farm's dark past. It wasn't long before Thomas unearthed a disturbing pattern hidden within the pages of history. Tales of unexplained disappearances, mysterious deaths, and tragic accidents littered the farm's timeline, painting a chilling portrait of a place cursed by forces beyond human comprehension. One story in particular caught Thomas's attention: the tale of Sarah Carter, his great-grandmother who vanished without a trace one fateful night over a century ago. According to family legend, Sarah had been plagued by visions of shadowy figures lurking in the fields, whispering secrets that drove her to madness. Driven by a sense of urgency, Thomas resolved to follow in his great-grandmother's footsteps and confront the darkness that haunted Maplewood Farm. Armed with nothing but his wits and a lantern, he set out into the night, determined to uncover the truth once and for all. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the fields as Thomas made his way through the darkness. The air was thick with an otherworldly presence, a tangible sense of foreboding that sent chills down his spine. As Thomas approached the spot where Sarah Carter had vanished all those years ago, he felt a strange, tingling sensation creep up his spine. He could hear faint whispers carried on the wind, voices that seemed to beckon him closer with promises of forbidden knowledge. Ignoring the voice of reason that screamed in the back of his mind, Thomas pressed on, his heart pounding in his chest as he delved deeper into the heart of darkness that lurked within the fields of Maplewood Farm. Suddenly, a cold gust of wind swept through the night, extinguishing Thomas's lantern and plunging him into darkness. Panic seized him as he stumbled blindly through the fields, his senses overwhelmed by the cacophony of whispers that echoed in his ears. Just when he thought he couldn't take another step, Thomas saw a faint glimmer of light flickering in the distance, like a beacon calling him home. With renewed determination, he pressed on, his footsteps guided by the light that danced on the edge of his vision. As he drew nearer, Thomas realized that the light was emanating from the farmhouse itself, casting a warm and inviting glow against the blackness of the night. Relief washed over him as he stumbled towards the safety of home, his heart pounding in his chest with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. But as Thomas reached the threshold of the farmhouse door, he felt a sudden chill run down his spine. He turned to look back at the fields behind him, his eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of the spectral figures that had haunted his dreams for so long. To his horror, he saw them shadowy figures emerging from the mist, their eyes burning with an otherworldly light as they closed in on him with silent determination. Paralyzed with fear, Thomas could do nothing but watch as they drew nearer, their whispers growing louder with each passing moment. Just when it seemed that all hope was lost, a voice broke through the darkness, a voice that was at once familiar and comforting, like a beacon of light in the midst of a raging storm. It was the voice of Sarah Carter, his great-grandmother, speaking to him from beyond the grave with words of wisdom and guidance. With her help, Thomas summoned the strength to confront the darkness that threatened to consume him, channeling the power of his ancestors to banish the specters back into the shadows from whence they came. And as the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, he emerged from the darkness victorious, knowing that he had faced his fears and emerged stronger for it. The first rays of dawn pierced through the darkness, casting a golden glow over the fields of Maplewood Farm as Thomas emerged from the shadows, victorious but weary. The events of the night weighed heavily on his mind as he made his way back to the farmhouse, the echoes of Sarah Carter's voice still ringing in his ears. As he stepped through the door, Thomas was greeted by the warm embrace of the farmhouse, its walls offering solace and sanctuary in the wake of the night's ordeal. He sank into his chair by the fireplace, exhaustion washing over him like a tidal wave as he relived the events of the past few hours in his mind. The encounter with the spectral figures had shaken Thomas to his core, challenging everything he thought he knew about the world and his place in it. But amidst the fear and uncertainty, there was a glimmer of hope, the knowledge that he had faced his fears and emerged stronger for it. As the sun rose higher in the sky, Thomas knew that he could not rest until he had unraveled the mysteries that still lingered within the shadows of Maplewood Farm. Armed with newfound determination, he set out to confront the darkness once and for all, determined to bring an end to the curse that had plagued his family for generations. With each passing day, Thomas delved deeper into the history of Maplewood Farm, uncovering secrets that had long been buried beneath layers of time and neglect. He consulted with local historians and scholars, piecing together the fragments of a story that stretched back centuries. What he discovered was both fascinating and terrifying, a tale of ancient curses and forbidden knowledge, of vengeful spirits and lost souls doomed to wander the earth for all eternity. It was a story that spoke to the very heart of Maplewood Farm, revealing the darkness that lurked beneath its serene exterior. But amidst the darkness, there was also light, the light of hope and redemption that burned brightly in Thomas's heart. He knew that he could not undo the sins of the past, but he could forge a new path forward, one filled with courage and resilience in the face of adversity. With the support of his family and the strength of his ancestors behind him, Thomas embarked on a journey to cleanse Maplewood Farm of the darkness that had plagued it for so long. He performed ancient rituals and ceremonies, invoking the power of the land itself to banish the spirits that haunted its fields. It was a long and arduous process, filled with trials and tribulations that tested Thomas's resolve to its very limits. But through sheer determination and unwavering faith, he persevered, driving back the darkness with a light that shone brighter than any shadow could hope to extinguish. And as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, Maplewood Farm began to change. The fields grew lush and green once more, the livestock flourished, and a sense of peace settled over the land like a gentle breeze on a summer's day. But amidst the tranquility, there remained a lingering sense of unease, a reminder of the darkness that still lurked at the edges of Thomas's consciousness, waiting for the opportunity to strike once more. And though he knew that the battle against the forces of evil would never truly be won, Thomas was determined to remain vigilant, knowing that as long as he had the strength to fight, Maplewood Farm would always be his home.